Hi my lovelies, only Grandma Kimmy, come back on to do another little stint of Mattie. If you remember rightly, the little creature, a hedgehog, had been brought in and he had been put in a box under some hay where he had hidden away from the light. The woman thought that the little hedgehog would soon be well, and when she went to his box the next day, he was laying limply on his side. His breath was coming in great panting gasps, and by lunchtime he was dead. Baby hedgehogs which have strayed from their mother are very difficult to rear. They die of fright, of pneumonia, or general septicemia, from attacks from maggots which literally can eat them alive, or simply from grief at the loss of their mothers. They rarely live, even as long as a week in captivity. One can only keep them warm, feed them with milk or milk and glucose, and hope that they will not lose the will to live and sink into the apathy which invariably leads to death. If a lost hedgehog has been touched by human hands, its mother has great difficulty in finding it because its scent is overlaid by that of the person who has handled it. So it should be handled as little as is possible and put back as once into the nest from which it has strayed, or it will almost certainly die. If a lost urchin is 2 months or more old, it can live by its own efforts in the garden, especially if some bread and milk is left out for them. But dozens of baby hedgehogs die every year because they stray from their mothers and cannot be found again. That is sad. Now, there's a little picture, it's quite small, and I'm hoping you can see it, but it looks like they're hiding in some sprout plants. I guess you'd say sprout plants. Sprout plants. See, little ones and big ones hiding in the sprouts. Sprouts happen to be my favourite vegetable, so they better not eat them. The weather became fine and warm, and day after day the land basked in unbroken sunshine. The cock blackbird, gleaming in his summer plumage, called, "Ah, read, read, ah, read," from the top of an apple tree, and the hen taught her 4 fledglings to take wobbly flights from bough to bough, coaxing them to and fro across the garden of the bread and milk house, until, exhausted, they clung precariously to the clothesline, determined to fly no more. The stream on the waste shrank to a trickle, and the trout lay clearly visible in its shrunken pools, their tails waving in the current like pieces of brown waterweed. A mink, escaped from a fur farm, made this his home in one of the banks, and a polecat slunk down from the moor to hunt in the shallows. The heat wave continued through July, baking the red soil in the gardens pale pink, and when the man from the house watered his beans and peas in the evening, sparrows, thrushes and blackbirds came and stood in a circle under the fine spray of the hose. Mattie's 3 remaining babies grew up strong and healthy. There were not enough slugs and snails left in the gardens to support 5 hedgehogs, but the dry weather brought with it a plague of cabbage-white butterflies which laid their eggs on the underside of the broccoli and sprouts. And soon there were thousands of juicy green caterpillars for the urchins to feed on. They also fed on ants' eggs, digging into the nest to claw them out, and they went along the rows of broad beans, licking the sweet-tasting black flies from the leaves and stalks. Apart from Bert Schmale, their only enemy in the garden was Stripey, Amelia Dart's lop-eared tomcat. Stripey was growing old. For nearly 11 years he had walked where he pleased, pouncing on birds and field mice and cruelly killing them for sport as well as for food. But lately his muscles had weakened, and he had formed the habit of going to the hedgehog's dish and stealing their bread and milk. One evening he walked into the garden when Quill and Mattie were eating. They were there with the young hedgehogs, and he forced his way to the dish, pushing in between Quill and one of the youngsters. All the urchins had frozen at his approach, but now Quill made her bristles stand up and snapped at the cat's face. Stripey spat viciously and slashed at the boar's snout with his claws at Mattie, and the 3 young ones ran off in terror. into the shadows. In the battle which followed, the cat's eyelid was torn, his nose was bitten, and his forepaws were so badly injured by Quill's bristles that he could hardly crawl away. The uninjured boar triumphantly returned to his interrupted feast, and as the defeated Stripey slunk off, terrified. After that, the tomcat never went near the bread and milk dish. When he walked down the path of the house, he always kept well away from it, and if he heard the sound of the hedgehog speeding, his pace at once quickened until he thought he was out of danger. When August came, the sultry heat changed to thunder, and the storm swept over the countryside. On the waste, the horse mushrooms spread their pink-gilled parasols, which blackened and rotted in the grass. The hedgehogs rooted in the decaying fungi for worms and maggots. One night they came across an eel of about 3 pounds in weight, which was slithering through the grass, making its way from the lake to the stream. They all pounced on the fish, but neither their teeth nor their claws could get a grip on its slimy skin, and it slid off unharmed on its journey to the spawning grounds in the Sargasso Sea. The hedgehog sniffed at the slime which the eel had left on the bent grass, and the young ones looked at it. It had a pleasant fishy taste which sharpened their appetites. They went on to root in the place where the anemones had grown in the spring, and in its rich leaf mould they found some spiders and some small red worms. A grey squirrel, dozing in the fork of a tree, pelted them with twigs, chattering angrily. He thought that the hedgehogs were trying to steal his winter store of nuts. The man from the bread and milk house was fishing in the lake and heard the commotion. He looked up, and the night was light enough for him to see the hedgehogs running away, with Quill and Mattie leading the 3 youngsters as they vanished into the shadows. Then a big eel took his legged worm he'd forgotten about. Then the big owl took his legged worm, and he forgot about the hedgehogs. His light fiberglass rod bent to the pool of the fish, and his reel screamed as the line was tore off. The eel made for some sunken tree roots, intending to wrap its tail around one of them, but the angler managed to turn it before it was able to do so. He played the frantically struggling fish for nearly 20 minutes, and when it slid exhausted into his landing net, he was pleased to see that it weighed about 4 pounds. He severed its vertebrae just behind the head and threw it into a sack, thinking that it would make good eating after it had been stewed in cider and allowed to cool in a jelly. Any of you ever had jelly deals? I'm sorry about the few stumbles there. I'm not doing very good with my reading today, and I apologise for that. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there because I've got to think about getting dinner and the likes. I hope you enjoyed it. So at the moment we've got the hedgehogs merrily wumbling away, getting on with what they want to do. We've got the fishermen catching the eel. Well done you, and bringing them in. I couldn't make out what that word was, could I? I did well. It's legged worm, as in legged, as in the worm on the hook. Sorry, I'm thinking, what on earth is that word? I do have trouble with reading because I am dyslexic, so I'm giving it a good go here. But anyway, if I get any words wrong, please excuse me. But anyway, love you all. Take care.